biblical precedent, we need to go with biblical precedent. If what we know doesn't line up with biblical precedent, then what needs to change?
What you know.
What you know. And that happens as we are open enough to embrace change and to realize that we don't know everything. And there's a great possibility that what we do know, we're going to have to unlearn. And that requires humility. So therein is a challenge for us, because a lot of us are so in love with the way we've done things that we're not willing to let that go to do something else, especially if it was good. Right? It's the worst thing, and God does it on purpose. He'll break inside of a revival that's going great and start something different, and we're wondering, why are you doing this? You know, Peter's involved in this new apostolic revival in Jerusalem. I mean, you know, his shadow's healing people. You know, they're pulling up people that are lame. Everything's going wonderful, and God brings him out of that total, you know, seedbed of revival there, and pulls him over to a place where there's, you know, the Gentiles. And it's like, why would God choose to start another new work over here when this one is functioning just fine? And so if we're not careful, we'll be like, and that's what the Jerusalem church felt like. They felt threatened. What is he doing over there? What's happening? Why is Peter in Antioch? I mean, in Joppa, and now, you know, he's over here talking to Cornelius. He went to eat with, you know. So what's happening? So in the middle of revival, God challenges the mindsets of everybody there and says, listen, I've done this really well, but guess what? I'm going to do something else really well. Because vision has to change as we move along. Right? Vision should always be increasing. Our understanding of God should be increasing. How we see God should be increasing. There should always be maturity taking place. And when we fall in love with the way God did something one way, or we try to continue to replicate that, thinking that he's going to continue to do that, you know, you can continue to do something that God did years ago, and there's no power in it anymore, because he's done with that. But we want to hang on to those things, you know, and that's been a trait throughout revival, as people really want to hold on to whatever God's doing so much that they wind up persecuting what God does next. So a Saul, you know, anointed by God, anointed with oil by Samuel, made to be king of Israel, he could grasp that concept. But when God says, I want you to do something different over here with David, what happened? He wound up trying to chase and pursue the rest of his life. So we can look at through church history and see where church history is lined with people from one generation fighting the next generation. That truth, because truth is continually going to be moving forward. And if we want to move forward, we want truth, we're going to have to move forward. We're going to have to be willing to lay aside things. We're going to have to be willing to strip of ourselves and allow God to really bring us down to the bare minimum. It's back in April. This was probably 2004. Kathy and I hadn't started dating yet. We started a few months later, and I had a vision, and this vision, I was in a full like military regalia. I like for battle. You got all the stuff on, you know, like extra 50, 60 pounds they carry and stuff. And back then I was in a little better shape, so you know, the picture of my mind was a little cleaner. But I'm there, and I'm standing like this, and there's a wall behind me. And all of a sudden, on the wall, this hole opens up and starts pulling me from here back and starts sucking me through, and I'm bent over. So my first thought is, first off, I'm claustrophobic. I'm like, what in the world? I don't like this at all. And because it was more of an interactive vision, and as I'm being pulled slowly, I start realizing I've got to straighten up at least. So I start kind of maneuvering to try to lay back at least. And as I continue to go, I'm realizing that the thing is not just a hole, but it's also slimming down. So I've got to start letting go of stuff. So I started letting go of the backpack, letting go of the canteen, all the things you got on you. And so when I finally got to the end of it, I come out of the hole like this, and I come out of the hole, and I'm looking, and I'm just dressed in a linen garment, right? Like the priest would wear, like a plain linen garment, not the high priest, just a plain linen garment. And God was showing me that what he wanted to do in my life was he wanted to strip me of all those things that I held so dear, those things that I thought had value, those things that I identified myself with. And what he wanted me to be was a stripped down priest, just to be a minister to him. That was all he needed me to do. All the other things that were in my life, not that they weren't important, but they couldn't go with me to the next phase of where he wanted to carry me with. So the thing that holds a lot of people back is their baggage. They don't want to let go of it. So as we start looking at this concept of spiritual fathering,